Hey guys. Sorry, just bear with me for a second. Got one more car seat too. Whew. All right. All right. Whew. All right. Good morning, Greenville. Hey,
Morning.
made it. What we got here? Whew. Is this for me? I need it. All right. My name's Ryan Czeczok. For those of you that don't know me, I'm usually over in the other building. Whew, let me catch my breath. I'm usually in the other building with the youth, with the Merge group. So I'm excited to be here today. As you guys saw, a powerful intro. Sorry we were running behind. Story of my life. Whew, as I catch my breath, I'm excited to start this new series with you guys. And in all honesty, it's powerful. And so as I collect my thoughts and as you guys are sitting here, would you guys just open in prayer with me real quick? God, we just thank you for today. We thank you that despite all the stuff going on, despite how busy our morning was, despite all the stuff that we had to deal with this morning or last night or this week, that we were able to come this morning to hear your word. God, and I pray as I'm here today that you would just give me the words that the hearts and the minds of the people here need to hear. God, we just pray that you would just be with us today. We invite your spirit, we invite you here. And we are so blessed that we have you as an example, a man who walked this earth, who carried a load that none of us could carry. And that's because of him that we have the hope that we have. And it's in your name we pray. Amen. Mm-hmm. All right, so can we just get, right, I can think of no other way to talk about a baggage check than just to bring up the obvious, right? And I don't care if you're a pessimist or an optimist. I think we would all tend to find common ground here in this one idea. It's ridiculously priced to check a bag at the airport, right? And here's the thing. And so I did some research, and depending on the airline that you fly with, right, the fourth checked bag gets crazy expensive. In fact, and this is kind of ironic, I checked on cheapair.com, imagine that, and I found that there is a airline that the fourth bag that you check, it can cost around $250 to $410 just for the one bag. So if you guys plan on going Air New Zealand, flying to New Zealand anytime, you might really try to take a mindset of we need to pack sparingly, right? And so if you're like me, you will always think that checking baggage has been overpriced, right? And so I have always been of this mindset until recently, right? As you see, as I drug this stuff in, it's all over the place. Recently, we flew to go see my family in Denver. So about this time last year, we flew with my wife and both my kids. And so we take this trip to Denver. My sister is getting married, and so we have all our wedding attire, and then we have all the stuff for the kids, right? And as you can see, that includes a ton of stuff. All right, so we got this, you can see when we go, we got this double stroller, right? We've got a pack and play, because at the time my son was 1 year old, and if you know, you got to confine those little guys and keep them in, right? So we got the pack and play for him, and then we have the diaper bag, the all needed diaper bag. We've got 2 other carry-ons to entertain the kids or to tranquilize them if necessary. And some of you guys know if you've ever flown with kids before. All right, and then we had just our luggage, my wife and I's luggage, and all the kids' luggage and all the stuff. And then we had 2 car seats. So there's only one here. I'm telling you, it actually reinforced this idea that I had. So, and this was it. My whole life I thought checking baggage was overpriced until recently, right? I had this eye-opening realization when I traveled with my 1-year-old and my 2-year-old, or about to be 3-year-old at the time. But a 1-year-old and 2-year-old, when you're traveling and with all this stuff, you realize, holy smoke, I would pay any amount of money. $410 doesn't sound so bad. And I would have paid that. And we luckily, I'm a cheap person, so we flew, anytime we fly, right, we fly out of either Indianapolis or Cincinnati. And there's a reason for that. Because there's a airline that's my type of airline in those 2 places that's not here in Louisville. And all I'm saying by that is it's a cheap airline, right? I'm cheap. I'm frugal. But this is the thing. You can ask my wife. She'll tell you I'm a very cheap, frugal person. But this airline, this specific airline, charges you for every carry-on and every check bag, right? It's not just one or the other. It's both, except for you get a personal item. So we use these as our personal items, right? This comes as your personal item. And, oh, my wife's purse was another one of the bags that was there. See, I can't even keep track of what we had. So we go on this trip, and we already are in an hour and a half on the drive, right? And how many guys have ever driven with young kids before? Mm-hmm. After about 10 minutes, they're ready to get out of the car. So you can imagine, as we pull up to the airport, we have all this stuff. Now, before we went on the trip, because of all this stuff costing, each piece costing money, and me being as frugal as I am, I had to call the airport. I had to find out, like, I got to pay for everything? And come to find out, and this made my cheap mind very happy, that they will, for free, you could check your pack and play, you could check your stroller, and you could check both car seats. So I was like, sweet, save some money there, right? And so, anyway, we got our car packed up, we got everything packed up. We're at Cincinnati, and we're to the point already where we're a little bit on edge, right? We're just pulling in. And here's the thing, when we fly out of town, because we're going to be gone for about a week at a time, we make sure that we park there, so we have our car to drive home with us, right? And so you park in long-term parking. Has anybody else done this before, long-term parking? Okay, so long-term parking, it's kind of cool, because they get to keep your car for a week. It stinks because they charge you for it, so more money being spent. But the car stays there, but the long-term parking lot is not right next to the airport, right? That would be nice. No. It's a little ways off. And so because of that, you got to take a shuttle bus to get back to the airport, to get to the place where you check your bags. All right, so if you just would imagine with me for a while, even though we acknowledged that we had a lot of baggage, right? And we took an inventory of it because I had to know how much money I was going to spend and how much it was going to cost. Even though I did all those things, there was still an understanding I didn't fully have about what it was going to take to get all this stuff to the airport. So anyway, so we parked the car. Somehow we managed. Now you got to remember, a 1 and a 2-year-old, like, where's the worst place you could be with a 1 and a 2-year-old? Probably an airport, right? Because people are going all over the world. Like, if somebody abducts your kid at the airport, man, you're in trouble. So we somehow, now that we were just pulling this stuff up on stage, like, this stuff's empty, so it's not the same as it when it's weighed down, right? But somehow we had to keep my son, if anybody's met Caden, you know that he has to stay strapped down. Like, you gotta put him in something and lock him down, and he will try to get out, but you just gotta do it just to keep him from going crazy. And so we had him in the stroller. My daughter, I think we had walking. I don't know. I seriously, it was so stressful. So I'm pushing this, yelling at my daughter, trying to keep my son from eating rocks and eating things and doing things he shouldn't. And somehow, including the two car seats for the kids, we managed to get all this stuff onto the shuttle. So we get onto the shuttle, and we take up, has anybody ever taken one of these shuttles before? They've got racks there for your stuff. We take up all of them, all the rack. So now we have people giving us looks, you know what I'm saying, condescending looks like, look at these people with all their bags, taking up all the racks, taking up everything. And it's like, hey man, I'm just trying to get to baggage check. It'll be way better if I could just get there. Right? And so we get there and we get off the shuttle. Somehow we put this science experiment back together, this scientific process to get it all put together. And we get it all and we somehow get it. And then we get to the escalator and you look up and you're like, we'll die. We're going to fall down and kill everybody if we go up this escalator. And so we had to be like, we got to go through an elevator. Right? And the same process, when you get to the elevator, it's like, well, how are we going to get this science experiment inside this little tiny square? Like, how are we all going to fit? But we did, so we're all pinned up against it, and we get up and we get to the second floor. And so some of you guys know that yesterday, right, the mini marathon and the marathon was being run. Anybody do it yesterday? Anybody? No? No runners in here? Cool, so I won't feel as bad about this example then. So, because I've never run a marathon. But I will tell you, when we got to the top, when we got out of the elevator, I felt like I was approaching, at least in my mind, what it would feel like to approach the end of a marathon. Right? I'm like, Caden, stop hitting your sister. And as I looked down, I could see, the lanyards that just separate the lines. I could see the lanyard, and to me, it looked like the finish line ribbon, like I was going to finish first place of the mini marathon here in Louisville. Yeah, you guys can applaud me. Thank you. Yes, we made it. Now, here's the thing, right? And so we're going through this series, and we'll get to this point, and hopefully you guys are tracking with me. But when we got to that point, we knew then and there that there was going to be a big weight lifted, right? Because we knew at that point, all we had to do when we got out of the car was get there. It's what spurred us on. Because if we had to go all the way through the airport, I don't know that we would have made it to the gate. And if we did, we would have just been ready to go. We would have just been like, forget this trip. No, we're going back home. I don't care. I'm done. Because carrying all that luggage just from the car to the baggage check was extreme. But it's what spurred us on. Because we saw the end in sight. And we knew once we got there, if we could just get to that place, then there would be this burden lifted and it would be smooth sailing and we'd be home free because we'd be able to check the majority of the stuff. The only stuff we really would be taking with us is the necessary stuff, right? To tranquilize the kids, like I said, on the airplane. And so we come in today, and when we come into church, for some reason, this is supposed to be the place where we can openly come with all this stuff. Right? This is supposed to be the place where we could bring all this stuff with us and not worry about it. But if the truth is to be told, this is the place where we try to act like we don't have any of this stuff. Right? This is the place where we come in and we're like, no, not me. So can we just do something today? Let's just be honest. Just like in life, when we go through journeys and trips, right? The example of going on one plane flight, sure, that's just one journey. But in this journey of life, we go on many passages and expeditions. We go on many different trips here and there. And so if in one trip, we take all this stuff, if I'm just gone for a week, if I'm gone for 3 weeks, right, the baggage gets more and more. The longer you go, the further that you're taking your expedition or your travels, the more baggage you're going to pick up along the way. So why can't we just come to terms with the fact that as we're living this life, we're going to pick stuff up. We're going to have baggage because we're on a long journey. And so as we're going through this life, can we just be honest and just say, we all have some stuff, right? We all have some baggage. And it comes in different shapes and sizes, just like the baggage you see here. Some of it's just light little carry-on bags, but some of it's heavy. And some of it's big and burdensome. And so we all have baggage. And we've heard that phrase that, he or she's got some baggage. As if we don't all have the same thing going on. Right? We all have it. Who doesn't? Right? And so like I said, when you think about a vacation or a business trip or you think about going on a travel, right, there's only a small amount of baggage that you're taking on that journey. But when we're talking about our journey of life, how much more baggage do we have? How much more things do we need to pick up and use? And then how many other things do we pick up along the way just because? Right? And so we all have it. And some of us carry it better than others. And some of us put on that we carry it better than others. But it's there. And so there's this great metaphor at play. Right? And so, I'm just going to throw it out there. You saw it on the video, but I'm just going to throw some of this stuff out there because if you're sitting here today, I promise you one of these things, one of these areas is true for you. But we all have it in some way. We all have some job stuff, right? You all have a job. Most people, you have to survive, right? We've got job stuff and all the stuff that comes with that. And we got relationship baggage, right? We got marriage and parenting that falls under that, sibling stuff that falls under that. We all have health baggage. We've got financial baggage, right? And the health baggage, that could be either you or just somebody that you love going through something, right? It's there. And then we've got all the stuff that goes along with it, the emotional stuff, the emotional side of it. And then we've got multimedia now, so people watch us day in and day out, and we are able to put our best selves forward on pictures, Facebook and Instagram. And so we show everybody what it is and give them an insight to our life. But with that comes some stress and anxiety and pressure to live up to stuff, right? And so we have all these things together. And then we have this desire to please people And we have this desire to be loved, right? And then we carry the losses as we go too, because we lose some stuff in this journey. It's a long journey, so there's going to be some losses along the way, and we carry those with us. And then there's this hurt and the damage that comes from some other people's stuff that's been passed on to us. Isn't even fair. It'd be like somebody, you at the airport being like, hey man, you want this? And you'd be like, no, not really. We'll take it anyway. But we get that in thrown in the mix as well. And then there's this unworthiness we feel. The list goes on, right? And then there's the one that the Bible says so easily entangles, right, and weighs us down. And that's just the sin. And that's in Hebrews 12:1. But most of us carry around a combination of all this stuff. Right? And so the great metaphor at play today, and why this video is so powerful, and the idea of it is because we all have it. But do we acknowledge it? I mean, when we go to break this down, right? This is just a simple thought, but it's a powerful thought, and it's a powerful thing to consider. But do we acknowledge our baggage? Right? Because here's the thing: is in this bag, you don't know what I got in here. Right? Because we like to keep it nice and packed up and zipped up and put away. And it's nice because it stays that way. Right? And nobody needs to know what's in my baggage. In fact, if you go to the airport, everybody got one of those random checks. Yeah, you're like, oh man. You don't even know why. You're just like, I don't really want you going through my stuff. Because it's ours to bear, right? And it's ours to hold on to. But do you acknowledge your baggage? See, here's the thing. In Job, you've got this guy and he's living this life. And it seems to be going great. Right? He's got thousands of animals. He's got 10 children, a happy life. They say he's a righteous man. And then all of a sudden, everything hits the fan. He loses all 10 kids in one blow, one fell swoop. He loses all of his animals. Somebody comes in, takes all of his livestock, his livelihood. Right then his wife says, why don't you just curse God and die? And then you've got him just in this place of dealing with some stuff. And let's be honest, he dealt with some stuff. That list that I just went through, that exhaustive list, I'm going to say the majority of it fell on his plate. And in Job, it says something powerful. Job 7:11, it says this. It says, therefore, I will not keep silent. I will speak out in anguish of my spirit. See, Job knew something about his baggage, right? He knew he lost a lot. But he took count and he took an inventory of his baggage, right? And through Job, he's talking to God like, what is going on? Why me? I would be better off just to be dead. And he takes acknowledge of it and he talks about it, right? He had the wisdom to keep track of it and to give it a name. And that's what we're called to do. We're called to keep track of our baggage and give it a name. Right? Because if you look at this life and you see all this social media, you would think we'd be happy and but really the stress and anxiety is higher than it's ever been. And so you've got people that are walking around and they're stressed out and they're angry and they're bitter and they're lonely. And we've got people who are worried and filled with regrets, and we've got broken stuff and they just keep silent as to what's really anguishing their spirit. And I think it just comes back to this idea of it crippling ourselves and not addressing right the baggage. When I went to the airport and before I flew, like I told you, I had to take an inventory to see how much it was going to cost me. Because the cost is important. How much is it going to cost you? And so when I went on my trip, if it cost too much, I couldn't make it to the end. I couldn't make it to my destination. And so the cost of the baggage is a huge piece. Right? So when we go to the airport, we do this. And so we've got to make sure that we're doing this in our life. We've got to be making sure that we're taking account. We're giving it a name. We are acknowledging our baggage, and we're doing these things, right? But it doesn't stop right there. It doesn't stop there. The next step, it's just as critical, but it's the most critical to having a less burned and inconvenienced journey. Because here's the thing, is you can either take it all with you, or you can check it. Right? And you get a certain amount of carry-ons. At some point, they'll be like, no, you can't carry that with you. You got way too much. But in life, like I was explaining, we take many, many journeys, and we have tons of different voyages that we go on. And so we are taking all this stuff with us, right? And the metaphorical equivalent in life to getting back home, right, is when we move from this life to the next. And so that's when our journey ends and we're able to put the baggage away. So imagine, if you will, with me for a minute, that when we're talking about this journey of life, we're not talking about going on a short trip, having baggage, getting back home, and just putting it back. No, it's dragging it with you everywhere you go. Like when you're going to play a game of basketball, like trying to drag this stroller around. Let me see you try to dribble or dunk a ball, and you're carrying it like, oh, I got the block, I got it. That's the equivalent. And so there is a better way for us to deal with our baggage than to drag it along with us everywhere we go, right? And in the same way that me and my wife came to the conclusion that, hey, I don't care how much it costs, we got to check this baggage in order to make it to our destination. There comes a point in time where you know that it's too much, it's too weighty, it's too burdensome to make it there without checking it. And so there's a better way in this life, right? We have a chance to fly, like to really fly. Like, I believe there we go. Woo. I believe I can touch the sky. I think about it. Oh, sorry. Took me back for a second. All right. But we have a chance to actually fly baggageless, right? We have a chance to be free to enjoy the journey and not be troubled by this stuff that we're dragging along. Right? So we can actually go along our journey without the inconvenience of this load. Right? And this goes to the next point, and this brings us to the next part of the sermon. But we do this by just handing it over to God and allowing Him to renew our mind with this truth. Right? And it's a simple truth. The truth is just this, is that we don't have to carry it along the way. We aren't supposed to. In fact, in Romans 12:2, it says this: do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. The pattern of the world is just to carry it with you, because there's really nothing you can do with it. Just take it with you. And so that's the worldly concept. But what wrong mindsets do you have that need to be renewed for you today? Maybe you have this mindset that you think that your baggage is too personal. I kind of mentioned that briefly. And you just really don't want to pass it off to somebody else. Or maybe you don't trust that somebody else would even take it or care for it or handle it for you. Right? I watched a video of how far baggage travels on the baggage check line or whatever, and it's miles. It's like this robotics. I don't know how it even gets to the planes. But if you've ever had missing baggage, maybe you just don't trust. Or maybe you're too attached to it because your baggage might be the addiction baggage, right? And you don't even look at it as baggage anymore. It's more of a crutch, so you cling to it. Or maybe you see other people carrying around, so you just think that's what we do, right? Everybody else is carrying around bags. Sure, that's what we do. Or maybe you don't feel like you could afford to check it all. Like, let's be honest, $410 after the fourth bag. I don't know how many bags I got up here, but dude, it's going to be pricey to check it all. Or maybe you're the opposite. Maybe you just don't feel like it's weighing you down all that much, so you just go ahead and take it with you. See, any one of these things are a lie. Ephesians 4:22 addresses it a little bit further. It says, you were taught to put off your old self, which is being corrupted by its deceitful desires, to be made new in the attitude of your minds. Right? And so your old self in this example, it just includes your old ways and your old mindsets of thinking that you need to include all of this on your carry-on stuff. Right? And so this is the important part, is that you realize, and the second step is just this, is just renewing your mindset to realize that you don't have to. Right? Part of pulling this off and doing this is just fixing that corrupted mindset that you have to do that. Right? And the truth is that we have an option to check our baggage. And this brings me to my next point. And the next point is this, and it's pretty simple. It's just that, and this isn't for all baggage, but depending on what kind of baggage you're carrying, this might be for you, and it's worth mentioning. But if you've been given some baggage from somebody else, like say you've inherited something that it wasn't your doing, like you had no control over it, it was just kind of passed off to you on your plate. This is for you. And this idea is this step is just about releasing your offender. And so Colossians 3:13 says, bear with each other and forgive whatever grievances you may have against one another. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. So if you're carrying around baggage that it really isn't yours, it just was passed off to you, it's important to check these bags as well. And so the way that you do that is the same as you check in all the other bags. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes, but it doesn't need to continue to be passed on, right? Maybe you've had some stuff in your life that was haphazardly passed on to you, but it's important to remember that you don't have to do the same. So Luke 6:35 breaks it down a little further, and it says, but love your enemies, do good to them, and lend to them without expecting to get anything back. Then your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High, because he is kind to the ungrateful and wicked. See, when you're lending to someone else in this, it says lend to others without expecting anything in return. Basically what you're lending them is, you're lending them the ability to check the bag. And so you're just checking it in for them because maybe they didn't know the process or they didn't know how to do it themselves. And so that's this step. And the important part is that when you do this, you release yourself of that baggage as well. You're not meant to carry that with you either. And really, if you're dragging it along with you, you're just dragging along something that wasn't even yours to begin with. So you got to make sure that you're checking that stuff in as well. Now this brings me to my last point, and this is my favorite point. Some of you guys are like, mine too. But this is my favorite point, and I think it can add up quickly, right? We talked about this. Baggage can add up quickly. By the fourth bag, we're talking $410, right? And if you look at the airport, all the airlines charge higher and higher for each additional bag that you check, right? And so this baggage can actually cost more than the journey itself. And some of you guys are carrying along stuff that's keeping you from your destination, right? You're dragging stuff along that's keeping you from even taking off. And so the idea is that we don't get lost in this idea that if you're frugal like me and you think, I just drag it along with me, no big deal. But each and every new journey that you take, if you're just picking up more and more baggage as you go, sure, when you were first just carrying one carry-on, it's not that bad. But man, when you start just loading them on and you've got 30 of them, and then you go on another trip and you haven't checked any bags, you just keep putting it on and putting it on. Even a frugal person, even somebody that can handle a lot, gets to a point where they can't take it any further. See, in our story, my wife and I, it wasn't even worth the effort to try to manhandle it all. It really wasn't. It wasn't worth the effort. And here's the point too, is we found peace in knowing that we just had to get to the baggage check area and we would be good. But there comes a point in time, and for Christians even, is we get saved once and when we first become a Christian, but a lot of us, we check the baggage when we first saved. Yes, we're on fire. Yeah, cool. And then what happens is along the journey, you stop doing this process. Each new trip, each new destination that you're going on, each new passage, you're not checking the bags and you're just dragging them along and you're wondering like, man, it used to be a lot lighter than it is now. Like this didn't used to feel this way. And it's because you stopped doing that process. Now, imagine with me for a minute is you're in this line, okay? And we all have come in here and we acknowledge that we have this stuff with us. We got more stuff than this even literally is here. But we're dragging this stuff with us and you're struggling, right? You're struggling. And there's this man that sees you standing there and he sees you're struggling with your stuff, right? Everybody else is on their own trip. They're on their own journey. They're doing their own thing. And so they're heading left or right, and they're doing their own thing, and they don't really notice you. But this one guy, he's observing. He's sitting there, and he notices what you're going through, right? He can tell that you're wore out. He can tell that you're weighed down, and you haven't even made it through the baggage check line. Really, you haven't even started to take off. You haven't even got to that place yet. Right? But he sees you there, and luckily for this guy, money isn't even an object for him. Right? And he sees you standing there, and he sees what you got, and he's graceful enough to pay for all your bags. So he wants to make a point, and he makes a point to come up to you, and he's like, hey man, hey, I got you. I paid for all that. All that stuff's already paid to be checked. And you just look at him just plainly and with a nice smile on your face, but you kind of give him the response of, nah, thanks anyway. Right? You kind of just politely decline the offer. And here's the thing. What a crazy decision that would be, right? Say my wife and I couldn't afford to have checked our stuff. What a crazy decision that would have been to be like, nah, dude, it's cool. I'm good. We're good. We're good. We're just going to keep taking it with us. What a crazy decision that would be. And today, isn't that where we're at? Right? Like today, as you're standing here, we have that same offer placed in front of us. Right? Jesus did this for us. He paid for it all. He paid for all the baggage. He paid for it all to be checked. He paid for it all to be carried on his shoulders, not yours. So part of this process of renewing our mind is just understanding this truth and just getting to that place. Because it'll spur you on. If you know you got to carry this for the rest of your life, it's one thing. If you know you just got to get to the check bag area, it changes things. But here's the cool thing, and this is my favorite part about it all, is he doesn't stop there. He doesn't stop there. And here's what he does. Right? He doesn't just want to help us check our bags. Right? He wants us to help restore what's lost in them. Right? Because the more bags you carry and the more stuff you got, you're going to lose some stuff in them. You ever had this many bags and you're trying to look for something? Man, it's tough. You digging down, you're like, I don't remember where I put it. See, and he wants to know your stuff so well that he can find what you need, and then he can find what you don't need, and he can restore it all. And let's just be honest, baggage, there's some baggage that we carry that it doesn't just stop once you check it at Jesus. Like, let's be honest. You got cancer today, it doesn't just stop when you go, hey Jesus, here you go. Right? If you have some losses, some people you love, and you've seen heartache, if you've seen some of these things or baggage has been passed off to you, you know it's not just as simple as signing your name on the line and checking it over like that. But here's the hope that's so powerful, and I hope is powerful to you as well. Right? He knows this about us. He knows the troubles that we're going to face. In Psalm 71:20 it says, though you have made me see troubles, many and bitter, you will restore my life again from the depths of the earth. You will bring me up. And here's the thing, is he knows that we're on this long journey and we've got a lot of bags we're carrying with us. Right? In John 16:33 it says this, it says, in this world you will have trouble. He knows we're going to have some bags that we're going to come across. But he says, but take heart, I've overcome the world. And so this is what he does for us. He takes our baggage, right? And sometimes he restores it here on earth. Sometimes he fixes the things that are broken here that can be. But other times he takes the baggage home for us. And what a cool example that is. Think about this example. Think about this idea. Is he takes it home for us. Matthew 11:28-30 says, come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. See, when's the only time after a trip that you really get to rest? It's when you make it home. Am I right? When do you get to put this baggage down? Like really put it down and put it away? Because when you're living out in a hotel or at your friend's house or family's house even, you're living out of a bag, you're living out of this baggage, you don't really get to put it away. You're living in it. And so the time that you get to truly get to the place where you rest is when you make it home. Right? Imagine this with me, if you will. Right? We all take journeys from a plane, from a bus, from a train, from a car, whatever it is, and we take this baggage with us. And then when we get home, right, we got this comfort and peace of knowing that we can put it away, right? The baggage from the trip can be put in its rightful place. And how our lives are similar to this idea, this business trip, is that we won't reach home until the end of our journey, which is the end of our life. And here's the part that is so awesome, and maybe this is, I hope this is just a renewing or a hopeful thought for you, is that when you get to that place, is that you know that you have peace in knowing that you have somebody that has gone before you. It's like you have your personal chauffeur where he takes your baggage and he brings it home for you, and then he starts to even unpack it and put it away for you. How cool is it to think if somebody puts your baggage away when you go home? Right? That's one of the worst parts of getting home from vacation is you're like, oh man, now I got to put all this stuff away. How cool is it that we have somebody that's already preparing and starting to do that for us now? Right? He's already at the final destination. He's already at the finish line. And so this is the hope for us. Right? Just as when you go to visit your family or you go to a hotel and it's prepared for you, or when your wife or husband goes on a long trip and comes back home, you prepare the home for him. That's what he gets to do for us with our baggage now. And he takes it and we can pass it to him confidently, knowing that he can sort through it better than we ever could. Right? And he can take it and he can put it in its rightful place. And he knows this baggage so well, and he knows what is pertinent to our journeys. Right? If you've ever been at the airport and put your wallet somewhere and you have your ID in there because you got to have it to get to your trip, you got to go on your destination, you've got to have your ID with you, right? And then you're looking through, you're like, what bag did I put it in? Where did I put it? And you're thinking, he lets us have some things, some baggage. Because he realizes that it's important for us to have those things in order to make it home. And so today, all he wants to do is make sure that you're still doing this process. Are you dragging everything along with you? And if you are, why? Right? Like the silly example, why wouldn't you just let him take it? We're not meant to live that way. Take your baggage to him so you can make it through your journey. Take it to him because he can restore it and he can organize it and he can help arrange it and he can help you have peace with the burden that it is. And that's just the thought for you today. Will you let him do that for you today? As we close. God, we come before you today, and I'm personally just moved by that thought that you are home already. God, it's like we're like those little kids when you ask them to pack their bag and they start throwing in toys and just stuff that's just going to make the journey more burdensome. We're like those little kids where we just start throwing things on our own plate. We have no clue how to pack our own bag to really get to the final destination. God, I pray today as we sit here and we're in this place, God, that we wouldn't have so much baggage that we're trying to carry along, so much stuff that we've got going on that we don't even know how to get home. It's cost us so much that it's keeping us from actually getting to our destination. God, may we not be lost in that way. May we be ever present and ever knowing that you are the one who takes the bags and you arrange them and you check them for us and you go through them and you help us know that through you we can have this peace, and through you we can have this understanding. It's in your name we pray. Amen.